So let's talk about hand tracing. So research shows that learning how to hand trace your code is one of the biggest indicators for becoming a successful programmer. So this is a skill that you need to practice and develop because this will have the biggest impact on how well you do in the field. So this is a program called Python Tutor, and you can write up your own programs in Python Tutor to visualize the statement execution. So if you go to Python Tutor and you click on Start Visualizing Your Code Now, you can write your statements in this code and then just click Visualize Execution, and it'll walk you through program execution, showing you the contents of all the variables. So I can go through this one really quickly. You should have already gone through this. But when I click Next, you can see it defines the main function, and then when it goes down to line 13, that's the call to main. So it'll go back up to main, and then on line 2, it's going to create a variable called num, and it will put the number 20 in it. So you can see over here, num has 20. And then if I hit next, you can see this print statement executes, which prints out the first assignment of num is 20. And then I'm going to set num to 30. So if you look over here, when I click next, you can see now that num has 30. So the 20 is no longer there. We cannot access that 20 any longer because we wrote over it with the number 13. And then if I hit next again, and then next on line 7, this is going to create a variable age and assign it the number 29. So you can see over here, num did not go away. It's still there with the 30 in it, and then age has the 29. And then name is created, and it has Sally in it. And then this statement says, put the contents of num into age. Well, num has 30 in it, so it should put the 30 into age when I hit next. And there it does. And then it's going to do a print statement. Okay, well, we don't all have Python Tutor when we're trying to debug our programs and trying to figure out what's going on. So learning how to hand trace is the same thing but on a piece of paper. And don't try to hand trace through your code in your mind. Actually take a piece of paper out and a pencil and hand trace the execution and the variables, line by line. It's a slow process, but it gets your brain thinking in detailed steps, one at a time. And so this is a super important skill. Like I said, it's one of the biggest indicator for becoming a successful programmer. So how we hand trace our code is I can just go through and execute my code line by line. So here's main, and so it's going to go up to main, and then the next line says to create a variable num and assign it 20. So on my paper, I'm going to create a variable num, and I'm going to put a 20. This is not a fraction, num over 20. This is going to be a column that I will update the contents of num as my program executes. So then line 3 is executed, and it prints out the 20. And then on line 4, it says to assign 30 to num. So I'm going to cross out the 20 to indicate that that's no longer there, and I'm going to write 30. And then on line 5, the print statement executes. And then on line 7, this creates another variable age, and it assigns it the value 29. And then on the next line, 8, it creates a variable name and assigns it the string literal Sally. And then on line 9, it says take the contents of num and assign it into age. So num has 30, so I'm going to put that into age, and the 29 in age is no longer there. So then when I print, what I should expect to see before I run this program is age, and then age, which would be 30, and then the word num, and then the contents of num, which is also 30. and the word name, and then the contents of name, which is Sally. So that's all there is to it. The part that's frustrating for students is that it's slow, right? You have to look at each statement one line at a time, and then you have to update the variables as you execute.